Okay, here we are going to talk about absolute value equations. Equations that have absolute values in them. We recall what absolute value does to a number. If you have the absolute value of 7, it's going to give you 7. If you have the absolute value of -7, you will also get 7. Absolute values started off by being a way of measuring distances. Whether you're taking the distance from 5 to 8 or 8 to 5, it should end up 3 either way. So absolute value of 15, that's 15. Absolute value of -15, 15. So when we get down to negative, the absolute value of -36, we get that this part right here is 36 with a negative sign in the front, just like that. So we look at how to deal with equations that have this in it. Easiest one, absolute value of x equals 7. Now, absolute value takes a negative number and a positive number and puts them in the same place. So the opposite of doing absolute value is to look backwards and say, okay, what numbers could be made positive to equal a 7? And we see that it splits into two separate answers. You could either have x equals a -7 or x equals a +7. Or x equals a +7. Another one, y, absolute value of y equals 10. This would split into y could equal a -10 or y could equal a +10. And while we're looking at this, there's one thing that you've got to understand about absolute values that's kind of nice. That if you ever have an absolute value like this, and it equals, say, a negative number, like -4, then there's no way that this positive number can ever equal a negative number. It just can't happen. Done. No solution at all. So let's try one over here. If I have something like absolute value of 2x minus 5 equals 10. This is going to split so that the 2x minus 5 could equal a -10, or we could have the 2x minus 5 equals a +10. And we just solve these two equations individually. Add 5 and divide by 2. And over here, add 5, divide by 2. And there we have those two solutions. Now sometimes you'll get an absolute value equation that looks something like this. 3x plus 8 equals absolute value of 2x minus 7. Something like that. Now these two numbers are both going to be positive on either side of the equation because of the absolute values. So if these two numbers inside the absolute values are equal, even if they're both negative or both positive or whatever, but if they're equal, you'll get an answer. So that gives us this, 3x plus 8 equals 2x minus 7. And that'll give us one answer. The other answer comes if these two are opposite signs, whether one's positive and one's negative, or one negative, one positive, either way. So that's one equation. Here's the other equation. Gives us 3x plus 8 equals the opposite of this, -2x plus 7. And we solve these two equations separately. So subtract 2x, subtract 8, and that gives us one answer. And then over here we have add 2x, subtract 8, divide by 5, and here we go. Okay, there's absolute value equations.